Hey guys, Videosec here. Now we are going to talk about some of the things that have changed over time, the past 100 years or so on. And this video is, I would say, inspired by comments in the comment section of one of my previous videos on why people aren't getting married anymore, and maybe a couple others. So let's just get right to it. Now, I think some people might have been given the impression that I am like trying to help people get married. Now, I'm not really that kind of guy. I'm not here to coach people on how to get married and all that. I mean, there have been some times when I've stated some things that I just, thought that people were just being ridiculous in their expectations about marriage. And sometimes I don't think that people have ever been in a relationship in their entire life. And some of the things that they say are just downright ridiculous. But I'm not here to help with somebody's situation on marriage, but I will state some opinions on things like that. But let's just move on to the comments here that I would say were kind of more interesting comments in the sections here. So this person says, I'm not going to get married again, and I get this a lot on my channel because I own a nice home on the hill, and if I get married, she divorces me here in Wall Street, I guess it looks like. She gets half of everything I own. No fucking way I'm getting married again. And then I commented, you can still own the house while being married. That is, unless you did something bad to your wife, they could take you to court to get the rights to your house. Otherwise, I'd What? I didn't type that down. I'm gonna retype that down here after I make this video. But what I've tried to state was, otherwise, if you purchased a house before you got married, you don't have to worry about losing the house. I don't know why sometimes when I tweet something like this, phone will try to correct what I'm trying to tweet, and it just comes out fucked up like this. But anyway. He says, here in Wall Street, you have to split it 50-50. My home is worth $400,000, so I would either give her $200,000 or sell the home. Even though I bought it and worked my ass off on it, it sucks, but that's Wall Street for you. Lots of laughs. And, sometimes in different areas in different countries, the rules are a bit different. However, I did state this to him, and this is pretty much the same for everywhere. I'd say just about anyway. I said, back in the day, women couldn't even own property, period. And the reason why I stated that is because back, I would say definitely, especially way back, if you didn't marry somebody's wife, because if, let's say, their husband died, and since back then, a woman couldn't own property. And so you had to marry them. You were basically forced to marry them, whether you liked it or not. And if you did not marry this woman, you could get stoned, possibly to death sometimes, which did happen in some cases. So that's just something to note to you guys who don't want women to own anything. But anyway, but nowadays, women have close to equal rights as men do. Therefore, they can have the equal rights to your property and money as well, especially when you are married. In some cases, I agree that what happens to some guys is kind of BS. But a relationship, especially marriage, is not only an investment, it's also a risk. Which means you have the opportunity of gain and loss. Now, how gain and loss works when it comes to taking a risk. You have the opportunity for complete gain, for a lot of gain, even sometimes, but you also have, of course, the risk of losing everything. And when you take that risk, that is your responsibility. And sometimes, yes, it really does suck ass, but that is just how it is. I do not make the rules. If I were to change it, I'd make a difference. But that's just how it is. He says, I'm not just willing to take the risk. Been married 3 times. I would definitely be faithful to a lady, live together, but no more good romance license for me. And I just said, that's fine with me. Like I've stated at the beginning of the video, I don't really care if people get married or not. I'm not here to be your marriage coach, but I am here to state something on how it is. Or at least an opinion, of course. Here's another comment here. Somebody else. I had to look at the age of millennials according to generation gaps. I am the iGen generation. Evidently, I always assumed I was the very last gen of millennial, 96 versus 94, according to Google. But yeah, as far as myself, I had to learn a lot on my own. And the generation I've grown up in is more instant, and they seem cuddled from the outside looking at my friends. Excuse me. I believe in the avenue of working hard and being invested in work. A lot of my friends don't seem interested in working at all. Plus, now with being paid for things like door dashing and OnlyFans, it feels like we're trying to get people to be paid for work that requires most minimal input. I'm making out pretty good for myself, though, making about 14 an hour at both of my jobs. I'm living on my own, and I don't have any serious commitments anymore, relationships wise. I'm just fortunate I got to work through the pandemic and didn't get to be at risk of furlough, which is a good thing. And what he stated about later generations, like some people would say about mine, or I would say the one after mine. I would say, as far as being pampered, I would say that a lot of people are, again, like I've stated, more about fantasy. They feel that they are, and because of this fantasy, people feel that they are more entitled than they used to be. Whereas the dream used to be more towards reality, like a reality thing, like, because, how should I put this? America started kind of the dream becoming famous kind of deal. And this started, I would say, kind of earlier in last century, in the early 1900s. We started the whole fantasy becomes famous. I mean, let's say, for instance, just the first name that pops up on my head, Jennifer Lopez. Or how about Marilyn Monroe? Now, these people, of course, are just human beings. But these people became famous through a fantasy, so to speak. And over time, and man, I could probably write a book on it, but in short, this fascination with celebrity and fantasy has made it so people have felt more obligated and also felt to be, or told that they are special. I'd say definitely, especially starting with my generation, the kids in schools. I even remember myself when I was in kindergarten, and I was told that I was special, etc. And so over time, a lot of people have felt that they are more entitled. But at the same time, as I have grown up, I have learned that this was in an effort to take advantage of us, younger people, to make us think that we are entitled to something, we feel more entitled to buy things as well, you see, and try to go to college, pay absorbent amounts of money for college, right? And buy that new game that comes out that is supposedly supposed to be the best thing since, I don't know. But I think you get the point by this point of what I'm trying to say. But I also had, commented back to him, it is true that work has changed over the years. And in some ways, I do think it was harder in the past where people used to be forced to go to war, like, Vietnam, World War II, World War One, where people used to get drafted, obviously. We haven't had a draft since Nam. That's the last time people were drafted into war, by the way. Anyway. But they used to be, drafted into war like it was a normal thing, where nowadays it's been a while since most people have been forced into war at all. We don't go do back-breaking work as much as we used to either. That used to be the dream, to do back-breaking work and to be, masculine and all that. But nowadays, a lot of people, think of it as, I would say, a dumb thing, like a thing that only idiots do. It's like, oh, I wasn't smart enough to go to Harvard, so I am now doing just back-breaking work or something. You know what I mean? It's gone less from skilled work to working at a desk at an office, so to speak. And like I said, we don't do back-breaking work like we used to, but it seems but also what has gone away, though, is our job security by a big margin. Job security has diminished to the point that we almost or don't have any in workplaces like we used to. And that's, of course, the end of that comment. I'll get out of that. And I've got to say, from even personal experience, I have seen some things that have, I would say in some ways, have actually discouraged me over time, to be frank with you, when it comes to being more successful in the workplace sometimes. Not that I was really planning on being like Mr. Successful career guy who gets taken advantage of by some corporation and has, I would say, a can-do attitude and, does 16 to 18-hour days like my father sometimes still does. And just, oh, dang it. What was that phrase from some of the harder workers that I know personally? Fuck, I can't remember it at the moment, but but to say the least, I've seen many hard workers be taken advantage of. I respect hard work, but at the same time, there have been times, growing up, I've noticed that some of these people are just fucking crazy. They think that they live at work, it seems. And it's just fucking insane. You know what I mean? Going above and beyond. That's the words that I was trying to think of. They always have this can-do attitude and say stuff like, I'm going to go above and beyond for you, And it's good to have a good attitude and, like I said, a good hard work ethic. But if you are seriously there, like, all of the fucking time, you never see your family and kids. I mean, I didn't even get to know my father until I was 18. No joke. Because of the way that he was trying to work all of the fucking time. I remember this one time he came back from work from a 2-week business trip, which is a long-ass business trip, by the way. Worked pretty long hours for those 2 weeks, came back home. And that night, after he came back home, he got a call from, his boss at the prison, and he was asked to come back to work at was it 10:30 at night when he was going to sleep. And I remember that because I I knew exactly what was going on. What was going on is that this person, his boss, was making it so that he could leave work early so that my father would have to come back in and do his work for him. Now, it's like I said, it's good to have a can-do attitude and good work ethic, but there are just some times when you've got to realize that you are being taken advantage of. Now, of course, I understand the reason why my father did what he did. He went back to work and did his work for him because he didn't want to lose his job, like some people do, sometimes very easily. I've seen some people, they even do one little thing and it's like that. They're out the door. And sometimes it's even their faults. Sometimes they're actually the ones at fault. Sometimes they don't even, put up signs for, hey, don't go underneath here or something. And yet they will still fire the people that made the mistake anyway. And just act like they're perfect or something. I don't know. I mean, they're only human being, but they like acting like they're perfect. That's for damn sure. But they really are not. Trust me. I also remember this one time I went to this workplace, to kind of do some welding and a lot of grinding on sections of tower for those windmills that generate power, And I was just grinding there. Nobody had given us any safety equipment, to hardly any safety equipment. I had like some safety glasses, maybe a pair of gloves, and that was it. So we were just sitting there, of course, just working our asses off, trying to grind shit off of one of the lips of this section of the tower because it had a ton of paint on it, right? And, suddenly this guy comes up. He's like, holy shit, you guys don't have any, like, safety equipment on? Like face shields and, like, arm guards and stuff? No jackets even? It's like, wait a minute, what? Wait, they just gave us these gloves and these glasses and that's it. And then he was just like, no, like if one of these managers around here sees you without the safety equipment on, they're going to fire your asses on the spot. And I'm just like, wait a minute. But nobody even gave us safety equipment. He's like, no, that's not going to matter to them. If they see you without the safety equipment, they're going to fire you on the spot. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to get you guys your safety equipment, and I'm going to come right back before one of these managers sees you. And I'm just like, holy shit. If this guy didn't come to us before these managers saw us without this safety gear on, even though they didn't even provide us any safety equipment, we would have just been fired on the spots, and we would have just taken all the blame, even though it wasn't our fault. Even if we defended ourselves and said, hey, we weren't given any safety equipment, it wouldn't have mattered. We would have just been out the door. That's it. Wouldn't have gone to job, nothing. And, especially for situations like that where there's literally no security in a workplace and the managers are basically just like children when it comes to managing, it just makes things harder. And it makes you question whether these people are legit or not when they say stuff like, if you work hard enough, you'll be rewarded for it. But there are plenty of times when that doesn't really happen nowadays. I mean, that would be nice if that was the case. I think I would actually see more productive people if that was the case. But the problem is that a lot of people are getting discouraged from being a hard worker because of the things that have been going on nowadays. And you see, that's the reason why a lot of people are trying to find work around that kind of harsh work labor nowadays, is because these people are discouraging younger adults from it, is actually what the real issue is. It's whether or not they even need people, because sometimes they actually really do need people, like people that do plumbing. There are not enough plumbers on this planet to cover the amount of plumbing that needs to be done. And yet people aren't getting into it because they're getting discouraged from that kind of work, is actually what the real issue is. And some plumbers nowadays are actually paid a lot of money, and yet all these people are getting discouraged from it because of what's been going on in the job security. It's like, why even bother taking the risk of trying to get this job when I'm just going to fail? And then the next job I try to get, they're going to ask me, oh, why didn't you get that job at plumbing? It's like, well, because that guy that I worked with was a jackass. Well, that's not going to do. Because if you say that to them at an interview, what that is going to say to them is that you're a fucking jackass that can't work with, the help at work. And then you aren't going to get hired. Now, even if it's true that the person that you worked with was a jackass, it's not going to matter because they're going to listen to the person that hired you first before they listen to you. Especially if you try to leave him for a reference and he basically sabotage you. But, of course, that's enough said. But that, I would say, is, in a nutshell, why so many people are trying to go more towards the Uber, kind of work. Or, like some of the workers that I try to see, they're going towards, trying to become, a video game streamer, on Twitch or something, That's definitely one of the bigger ones that I'm seeing nowadays is a lot of the people, they're trying to make money off of playing video games versus, having to deal with their boss at work so they at least have some kind of income coming in without having to deal with some fucking stupid jackass trying to fuck them over all the time. So it is sometimes understandable. However, there's another issue is that sometimes these people, especially younger adults, have been taught that they can just get into something and then everything will just work out like that and they'll just be successful. Well, that's just not how it fucking works in the real world. You still actually do have to work towards something in order to be successful usually. Now, there are some people that get lucky sometimes. They make one video on YouTube and it's like, boom, they're famous. But most of the time, that doesn't happen. I'll say 99% of the time that doesn't happen. There's probably trillions of videos on YouTube right now, just like this video here. But, this video here, it's not going to have a million views tomorrow. No, it's not going to have a million views tomorrow. It's probably going to have like 10, 30, maybe 50 tops. I don't know. Maybe I'll get lucky and I'll have like 100, views on this video right here. If you catch my drift. But, that's just reality right now. It can take a lot of work and things don't just happen. But of course, with that being said, I will just stop talking because I think I'm starting to go a bit off topic. Now, of course, if you have any more questions, comments, etc., just leave your comments down, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.